Hey y'all, Chris here with Rockin 8 Farm, and I have got a really cool project for you today. Before we get too far into this, everybody do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and don't forget to go check out our website, rockin8farm.com. So that there is the pig hut that I made for my boys. No way of knowing whether or not it was going to work out or not. I asked them what they thought of it, and they said,
hated it.
If I left it there long enough, maybe they would become more interested in it, but I just decided to go ahead and give something else a try. So this is what we ended up coming up with. Y'all, I talked about wanting to build an A-frame. I built an A-frame. Now this A-frame is a little bit different than most because my A-frame is built out of completely found materials. Let's go ahead and go through the parts list a little bit here. So the first thing, I guess the main component, is that this particular pig hut is made up out of 6 pallets. I made sure the pallets were in relatively good shape. One thing you won't see in the video is that you do have to go through and make sure you remove loose nails and sharp edges and break off splinters of wood that are poking out, and just make sure the pallets are in overall good condition. Now the nice part about pallets is that they're fairly standard. Most pallets are 40 inches by 48 inches. I made sure that all of my pallets were the 40 inch by 48 inch variety. So basically that gives you 4 full feet in one way. Now what worked out really good for me is that another one of my materials was 5 pieces of roofing tin, old barn roofing tin. Now my old barn roofing tin, it just happens to be 10 feet long. If you take 3 pallets side by side, 40 inches, 40 inches, 40 inches, 120 inches, so you got 10 feet that way. So the reason my A-frame is 10 feet is because it just worked out really good that 3 pallets was the exact width of the length of tin that I had. I didn't have to cut metal, I didn't have to cut down pallets, and I ended up with this 10-foot long A-frame shelter. Couple of other materials that you're going to need for this particular project are just some little scrap pieces of lumber. A foot is good, 18 inches is a little bit better. You're also going to need 2 6-foot pieces of dimensional lumber, so whatever you have. I mean, if you have to go out and buy 8-foot dimensional lumber, you cut the 2 feet off the end, well, now you've got those 2 feet for some of that scrap lumber that I was talking about. So that works out pretty well. But if you just have a 2x4 laying around that was already cut down a while ago, then use it. And the last material that you're going to need is some like 2.5 inch, I think that size works pretty good, 2.5 inch decking screws, and then the inch to 1.5 inch self-tapping sheet metal screws to attach the sheet metal. Other than that, y'all, there's not a whole lot of materials to this project. So the first thing that you have to do is attach 3 pallets to one another, and I have a picture of that here. You could do this several different ways, y'all. I mean, you could drill holes and put bolts through with nuts and washers. That would obviously be incredibly secure. The way that I went about it is like 6 or 7 screws down one side and then come back down the other side with 6 or 7 screws to where you've got like somewhere between 10 and 15 screws screwed in from both sides. Y'all, you saw the picture of the 3 put together. If I went to one end and lifted it up, the entire thing would lift up as if it was one pallet. So it is nice and secure. So I guess for now, why don't you just go ahead and enjoy a little footage of us slapping this thing together, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it a little bit more. So as you can see during the filming there, the pigs were oh so helpful with putting together this project. I knew it was going to be heavy, and that's the thing, y'all. This thing, it's not moving anywhere. So I think what I'm more likely to do is build several of these, and then in the event that I do have to move one, it's probably going to have to at least partially come apart. The nice part about them coming apart is that if I remove the cross structures that there's several of them all the way through as well. Basically anywhere that one pallet came together with another pallet all the way through this structure, I have one of these in there. So these would have to come out, and this top piece of tin would have to come off. And then by undoing the screws there and undoing the screws there, I could move this entire section as one piece and move this entire section as one piece, and then it would just be a matter of reassembling it. So it's not truly mobile as far as the ability to just, pick it up and roll it, because pallets individually are fairly heavy, and this is made up of 6 pallets plus 5 pieces of sheet metal plus some additional lumber. We're looking at several hundred pounds here. When it comes to structure, heavy's good. I mean, it's not going anywhere, and that's the positive thing about it being as heavy as it is. So just in case you really couldn't tell when the video of us putting it together was, that was basically it. You attach the 3 pallets to each other here and attach the 3 pallets to each other here. We put 1 screw each in the cross supports in the bottom of the pallets on both sides, and then just leaned the 2 pieces together and came through. Pig, yeah, I'm not your scratching post. Don't bite my shoes. Don't bite my shoes. Anyhow, lean them together, install all of these all the way through it. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these kind of all the way through. And those just keep this from separating like that. Once you put this tin on, obviously that kind of caps everything together as well. So piece of tin there, piece of tin there, that's repeated on the other side. I'm sorry for the shaking. Apparently I'm a pig scratching post. And then you don't even know, my shoes are not food. And then the 5th piece of tin, we screwed down one side here and then just folded it over the other side so that we could create a ridge cap. Fill this sucker full of hay and you are ready to go. My shoes aren't food. Big pig. Fill this sucker full of hay and you are ready to go. So, I mean, what do the pigs think of the new pig hut? I mean, I think y'all saw, like, while we were trying to build it, they were already running back and forth in between it. Within a couple of minutes of us stepping over the fence to go put the tools away, they were laying down inside of there. This morning I came out and they were sleeping in. They're usually up and moving around, but they were just enjoying their nice cozy bed. They came out and ate their grain and then went back in and went back to bed. So I'm gonna have to say, all in all, they really like it. All right, now let's talk about actual costs, y'all. I'm not gonna be one of these people that's gonna sit there and be like, hey, build a free pig hut, it doesn't cost anything, because that's not completely accurate. This particular A-frame pig hut, I was able to build at no expense to myself right here and right now. This is all stuff that I had on the farm, and I was able to just assemble it into a structure that I needed. However, the giant box of 2.5-inch wood decking screws, well, I bought that at some point, so there was an expense there. If you don't have 2.5-inch decking screws, you're gonna have to go buy some. The self-tapping sheet metal screws to attach the metal to the actual pallets themselves, again, I had an opportunity probably a couple of years back. There was another farmer friend of mine that bought out a warehouse and literally ended up with hundreds of thousands of these screws. So I bought a great big bag, like 3 or 4 pounds of screws from him at that time. So when it comes to doing a project like this, I've got them laying around, but I did pay for them, back when I bought them from him. The pallets, now pallets, I can honestly say, are free. I got onto Craigslist, and I got onto a Craigslist site from Wisconsin. I got onto a Craigslist site from California. I got onto a Craigslist site from Washington State. I looked at several of them around Texas. I looked at one in Georgia. You can find free pallets pretty much anywhere. It's just the expense of either going to get them or paying to have them delivered. I've got 200 pallets sitting on my property, and I got every single one of them for absolutely free. And I had to drive maybe 10 miles to go get them. My kids and my wife and I loaded up as many as the trailer would carry, went back the next weekend and got the rest of them. So you can find the free pallets, and that's why I'm going to say pallets are free. As far as the sheet metal goes, I had that laying around because I took the roofing off of the lean-to from my barn, and that's where all of this metal is coming from. So when I redo my barn lean-to, because I'm going to have tools and equipment under there, I want to go new. I've got the structure in place. Now I want to put down new plywood. I want to put down new roofing felt. I want to put down new tin with, you know, screws that have good waterproof washers on them, because I don't want things that are under there getting wet. So because I know that I'm going to buy new tin, I'm able to use all this tin that came off of that roof. But again, because I'm using up this tin, I can't reuse it on the roof. And even though I planned on going with new stuff anyhow, I'm gonna have to go buy new stuff. So you can't really say that the metal roofing is free either. Definitely repurposed, but not necessarily free, because it is gonna have to be replaced. Now, as far as y'all go, I've again looked at Craigslist sites all over the place. You can, generally speaking, get these 10 and 12 foot sheets of used barn tin for 10 bucks. Some places are giving it away for free. Some places say just come and get it. But you know what? There's so many crafty project people out there that when it's free, just come and get it, it goes quick. If you go brand new, you're looking at more like $20, $25 a sheet. So, you know, it's worth it to go get the used stuff if you can. As far as all the scrap lumber goes, you know, I had some 8-foot 2x3s that were basically just laying around. I bought them for another project. I used them on this project. So again, they didn't cost me anything right now, but they did cost me money when I bought them. So again, the lumber isn't necessarily free either. The nice part is a 6-foot stick. You can find that kind of stuff like when they're building houses. They end up with a lot of scrap and a lot of relatively large waste. They're not real good about like using every inch of a 2x4 like we would be on a homestead. So it's not impossible to stop by places where houses are being built and just ask if you can pick through their scrap lumber stuff. A lot of times they'll tell you to come back after they're gone so that they don't have the liability of you going through their scrap lumber. But it's possible to find, you know, pieces that came off of an 8 or a 10-foot 2x4 and there's still 6 feet of it left. But if you do have to go buy a couple of pieces of dimensional lumber, you know, go with a 2x3. They're a little bit cheaper. You can get them for about $5 a piece with the way lumber prices are. You need 2 of them. By cutting the 2 feet off, you've got a couple of pieces of scrap, and now you just have to come up with a few more pieces that are, you know, a foot to 18 inches long. And a lot of people have that laying around. So if you actually had to pay for all this stuff, the pallets, I'm gonna stand by this, are free. The metal, 5 sheets at $10 per sheet is 50 bucks. If you don't own any screws at all, a $5 box of each kind of screws is enough to do this one project. So you're sitting at 60. 2 pieces of dimensional lumber, $5 a piece there, you're sitting at 70. And that's really pretty much all she wrote. I mean, that's basically all the materials. So again, you can build this A-frame shelter for about $70. Now, if you didn't want to go with the metal and you wanted something that the air could pass through a little bit better, keep in mind, this also means that it's not going to be waterproof if you do it this particular way. But just like on my water station here, you can take the slats from one pallet and use them to fill in the gaps on the slats of another pallet. And that is going to allow you to have a solid surface for as far as wind protection. But if it rains, obviously water is going to leak through there. A lot of the A-frame shelters out there are built with just plywood sides. People will use, you know, pressure treated plywood so that it's got some weather resistance. And if you know, that's possible. I don't have any of that stuff laying around. I had metal. And a lot of the A-frames that I see out there, even if it is a 2x4 frame with a plywood sides, they put metal over them anyhow to help make them more weather resistant. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's strong, it's got good structure. You know, a couple of my kids were kind of climbing on it a little bit to kind of almost see if we could get it to break. It's reinforced really well. It is heavy as all get out though. It's not something that we're just going to pick up and move right now, but overall I really like the looks of it. So like I said, I'm never going to be the type to claim like, oh look, totally free. If I wasn't so hooked on the idea of mobile, I probably would have just went with this from the beginning, because the pigs did not like that pig hut at all. So that pig hut is probably now going to become a dog house, and I'm going to keep building A-frame shelters out of pallets, because I've got lots of them laying around. I've got lots of metal, lots of screws. Worst case scenario, I might have to go pick up a few more 2x4s and I can really slap together some A-frame pig huts. If anybody has any questions, if I didn't do a good enough job of explaining to you exactly what went into this, just let me know. You can always shoot me an email, rockin8farm@gmail.com. Be happy to answer any questions that you have. If you have any comments, go ahead and drop them down into the comments section. Good comments, bad comments, none of them hurt my feelings, so go ahead and let me know what you think. I look forward to sharing more projects with you like this in the future, and until I see everybody again, it's been Chris with Rockin8 Farm. I want you all to be happy and live healthy.